Hello everyone, this is Dylan from the TheTriniGardener channel and I'm so excited to bring you all this video. I'm happy with this video because you all have been with me from the very beginning of this small harvest video that I'm going to do for you. If you have seen any of my videos concerning transforming terrible soil, planting tomatoes into that terrible soil, pruning your tomato plants for a good harvest even in the wet rainy season that we have here in Trinidad where it's so wet. If you've seen any of those videos, the tomatoes in those videos are what we're going to be picking from today in this small harvest video. So I'm really happy to bring this to you and I hope that you like this one. Now with my garden tour, I promised you all that when we harvest from these tomatoes, I would bring you all along for it. Specifically because you all have been part of this process from the very beginning, right? So it wouldn't be right to not have you all here when we pick for the first time. Now tomatoes, generally you would get two good pickings from them. You get a first picking and then you get a second picking, and if you get anything after that, it's really like considered bonus. Okay, these are for the most part the original tomatoes that I planted in, except for two. Now everything here, there was originally 7 tomato plants. 2 got destroyed by a creature that has no regard for my garden, right? And I don't want to point fingers and name names, but I replanted. So basically the second tomato plant that you have here, right, and the second from that end, those are 2 different tomatoes, because the rest of them are the 008 tomato, as I had mentioned in my previous video, which is really good for your tomato choker, really good for your marinara. It's a really good, nice, sweet sauce tomato. Really good. All right, so let's get straight into the picking and I'll talk to you all on the other side. Harvest basket, very useful for when you're harvesting tomatoes. Okay, so I'll just put that down there, and you'll see that I have a lot of them, and I know it's a common habit to pick your tomatoes sort of green, fullish, and then have it ripe in the kitchen, which is perfectly fine. You can do that. I know a lot of people who do it. I do it sometimes. The only time that I, however, will do it is if there's a threat to my tomatoes. So if, for instance, I have like a lot of birds, a lot of pest pressure, and then they're destroying the ripe tomatoes as soon as they start to turn and they're destroying them, then in that case, I would go and pick a tomato that probably looks like this here. All right, so this is a tomato that is you know, it's not ripe, but it's not fully green. It's nice and full. I can feel starting to get soft there, but what I actually prefer, as much as possible, as long as the conditions allow it, would be to let the tomato ripen on the vine, because for me that gives it the nice the best, sweetest flavor that you can get from your tomato when it's ripened on the vine. I know the situation doesn't always allow for that, so of course, you know, you can pick them sort of half ripe and put them to ripe, but we're just going to be picking the ripe ones today. And like these here, I'm just going to leave them, let them ripe properly. All right, so let's get straight to it. Okay. So we have a lot of tomatoes on this tree here, but we're not going to be picking anymore because they're not ripe yet, and I want them to get nice and ripe on the tree before I pick them. This is a 008, the original tomatoes that we planted in here. This tree doesn't have any more. The second tree is a big rainbow tomato that hasn't produced any as yet. I'm not too worried because we do have some nice flowers and some buds forming, right? But I have realized that with the big rainbow heirloom tomato, it generally takes a little bit longer to actually produce. All right, you all would have remembered the big rainbow from my heirloom garden tomato tour that I had done. That's the nice big sort of orangish sort of one. That's the big rainbow. That's what this tree is here, so we haven't got any on them. When I, just a brief explanation here, when I say heirloom and then I say 008, 008 is a hybrid tomato. Those hybrids, they get like a number based on how it was hybridized, right? So that's how everyone recognizes that's a hybrid tomato. You take 2 tomatoes or even more over the course of years and you make it really good. Those are really good for production. That's what you normally get in your market. An heirloom tomato, it's not bred in that way for high production. it's more bred for the preservation of that original flavor that you got, right? And for the history of that tomato. Okay, so the tomatoes on this one here. Here's our third plant, which is our 008. We don't have any ripe ones here, so we'll be bypassing this plant entirely. We have some tomatoes on it, but no ripe tomatoes. Okay, so here's our main producer, right? So 008 here, right? You can see it's not a very tall plant. It's not a very tall plant, but it does produce pretty well. All right, so I'm just gonna pick some from these here. It's a good idea, if you can, to pick these tomatoes with the entire stem, right? To just try to take that out. I mean, I don't know if everyone has had this experience, but generally, if you can get this entire stem out when you pick your tomato, it's not always easy, right? Like this one here is really stiff, so it's fighting me, right? If you pick the entire stem off, then it helps send a better message to the plant that the fruit is missing, so therefore the plant needs to produce some more, right? And it is the plant is designed, or the plant wants to produce as many fruits as possible for the purpose of seed, to make sure that the seeds get it gets propagated, all right, and the seed goes off and creates more of this plant. The plant wants to live, and not just live, but the plant wants to have babies and baby plants of itself and continue. So if the plant knows that you've taken out the fruit, then the plant is going to produce more fruit, because it wants to produce more seeds that can then go and be planted by animals. When animals consume the fruit, they'll go and they'll probably poop all those seeds somewhere else. All right, so that's it for this 008. There's a nice one here, really nice big boy, right? This looks like a super bloom. A super bloom is when you have a flower that that basically two flowers that come together and they form one fruit. Because if you look at it here, this is how the original 008 is supposed to look. So it's not ribbed, but here we have like a ribbing on there. So this is probably 2 tomatoes, or even more, maybe 3 tomatoes that came together to form one plant there. All right, and oh no, this is the same. Crazy guys, look at this. So this is the same plant that has gone off here, and we have some more, right? So we'll pick this one off, right? So again, trying to get off the stem if possible. Right, there we go. Yeah, leaving this. These are starting to turn. You can probably see that the color is not as green as, for instance, like this. Right, this is very green. This is not as green, right? But we're just still going to leave them. Okay. And here, this is not a 008. This is a indeterminate variety tomato. The difference is that a determinate variety, like 008, they grow up until a certain height, they stop. Indeterminate, they keep on growing. They keep on growing. And if you don't keep them in check, like I have had, this is the black Vernissage tomato that you've seen in my heirloom tomato tour. And the one in that video, if you all remember, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's really like nice to see how big some of these indeterminate varieties can get. But I think that tree got around 8 feet before it started to die. All right, so this one is not 8 feet just yet. It's just around probably almost 7, right? I don't know if I want to get to 8 feet, because it does get a bit troublesome to pick the actual fruit. This is how the black Vernissage tends to look. Okay, so you can see it's definitely not as big as the it's not as big as the 008, right? It's a good salad tomato as opposed to like a sauce tomato, but still, you know, really nice anyways. All right, we're just going to go to the other side of this. Okay, so on the other side of the black Vernissage, you can see that the fruit itself is, you know, it's a little bit smaller than the 008. A nice salad tomato. I had to plant back these. This is what I had in stock after my 008 was savagely damaged, right? So I just planted this back just right here, and we have one 008 again to pick, which is this boy. Okay, so this is the biggest 008 we've gotten for the season so far. Right, they generally don't get huge, but this one is really nice and big. This is how it is in my hand, really nice. And that can have sometimes happen, and what you generally would tend to find happening when one tomato gets this big, the other tomatoes, they don't produce. It's like this one tomato is just really strong, so it sucks the life out of the other buds. So this alone was the only tomato we got off of this branch. Okay, try to get the entire stem out there. Just look at the size compared to the others. Like, this is the biggest of the others, and this one is definitely a lot bigger. All right, I'll do a small weighing to let you all know the weight of these tomatoes. Honestly, this is how I like my tomatoes to be. I like to have just a bit of tomatoes at a time, rather than get like a huge harvest all at once, because tomatoes generally doesn't keep very well unless you pick them green. So it's good to just have a little bit that can last me a few meals. Like, this can make a lot. This can make a lot. And you know, just a few trees. We do have some more coming on. And there you have it, a little backyard gardener's harvest of tomatoes there. I really wanted to bring this video to you all, and I'm so happy that you joined in to see it. This is, you know, it just to show that pretty much the things that we've talked about, making sure that we have nice organic matter in our soil, making sure that our soil has good drainage, that we maintain moisture as much as possible, even within the heat of the pitikaram that we've been having, and that we make sure we prune our tomatoes to prevent diseases. All those teachings that they do produce tomatoes, nice juicy tomatoes that can be nice and ripened on the vine. And you know, like, if you go into a market, you buy tomatoes, it's always, you know, it's, of course it's good to support farmers, but if you can grow your own, it helps you out, it helps with your pocket, and also the process itself is something to be enjoyed. Remember that once again, this has been Dylan with the TheTriniGardener channel, and if you want to follow us on Instagram, feel free to do so. We have a lot of more just pictures about the different produce that's happening in the garden. And remember to also tag us on Instagram when you have your produce and that you post your pictures. Just give us a tag, we're happy to reshare it, and you know, just to enjoy the entire community of gardening. Remember that also, if you like this video, or you think that this video could help someone to grow more food for themselves and their family, then share this video with them and help them out, because you know, especially in these times, it's good to have as much help as possible with producing our own homegrown organic food that's ethically grown and that's very healthy for you and for your family. Once again, this has been Dylan with the TheTriniGardener channel, reminding you to get up and get growing. Take care.